Hello, I'm Portia Parker Griffin, and I want to welcome you to the Career 101 podcast, a place for ambitious professionals and seasoned executives who want an edge in their career. We're talking about all of the things you were never taught or told when it comes to career growth, development, and change. Now, let's get into it. Today, we are talking about Mentoring 101 and how to find a mentor with Dr. Rubina Malik. Dr. Rubina Malik is a global learning and development expert with over 20 years of experience in academia, consulting, and professional services. As a champion of coaching, mentoring, career sponsorship, and leadership development, she is skillful in helping organizations enhance and develop high-caliber talent to impact engagement, retention, and promotion of diverse candidates. Competitive, edge-driving organizations, from startups to Fortune 500 global brands, depend on her to support and her expertise to propel programs such as mentoring, career sponsorship, and leadership development. She is a TEDx speaker and a popular guest speaker at conferences and podcasts. She is frequently published in industry magazines, including highly respected academic and business journals, such as the Harvard Business Review. To fulfill her passion and commitment to the community, she is on several nonprofit boards that actively support education and equity-based incentives. Hi, Dr. Rubina. How are you today?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And I'm well, I'm great. I mean, how could I not be? I'm here with you.
Oh, well, we are excited to have you with us to discuss Mentoring 101. But before we get into that, we want to learn a little bit more about you, Rubina. So tell me about 7-year-old Rubina.
The 7-year-old Rubina. The 7-year-old Rubina was anxious, yet excited. And she was anxious because she was about to get on an airplane to go to the other side of the world where she had no idea what she was getting into. She didn't know the language, she didn't know the culture, she didn't have no idea when she got off the airplane what the world was going to be like. And she was excited because being a daddy's girl, she was going to be with her daddy, and she knew that her daddy 4 years earlier had gotten on an airplane, and she used to go every time she would see the airplane fly across. She would go, "Daddy, Daddy," and here was her opportunity to get on a plane to go be with her daddy. So the 7-year-old, when she landed in the United States, as 7 turning into 8, was, like I said, was very anxious and had a huge opportunity to recreate herself as someone she probably did not know who she was, because she was away from her grandparents. She was away from all her family members, just her and her mom and dad. So that's my 7-year-old.
I love it, Rubina. So that's so exciting. Tell us a little bit about what country you were coming from in terms of going to the US.
So I'm originally, my family's originally from Pakistan. So I was born in Pakistan and I was raised in Georgia, in Atlanta. So, I'm what I call a Paki Peach. She's from Georgia, but, from Pakistan. And so, one of the things that I kind of say it in gist, but there really is something about that term that I'm using, because if you think about it, I'm merging two cultures, together to become one, to have that identity as one, right? So I had to, my culture, where I was raised, how I was raised in a house, the culture that I lived in and I dealt with on an everyday basis, to make me the woman that I am today, honoring my culture, honoring the culture I'm in, honoring the culture I'm from, and making sure that I am comfortable in what I have to offer and who I am. And I know we're going to talk about mentoring today, but that's where, for me, like mentoring has been such an impact, most of my life, and why it's so important to me to talk about, to mentor, as well as to be mentored and to be mentoring. So all men, like all things mentoring, I feel like has brought me to where I am today. So for me, it's just a natural progression to be an advocate for it.
Wow, wow. That is so deep, Rubina. And there's a lot of identity work that people are starting to talk about these days. And I love how you touched on that as a Paki Peach and really thinking about identity and how you were exposed to that early on, right? As you moved to the United States. I think that is just great. And it gives you a great perspective, I think, as you are mentoring your mentees and working with your students to really understand the complexities of what's going on, right? For all of us nowadays. So, wow, just very deep. Thank you for sharing that, Rubina.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
when we think about when Rubina landed in Georgia in the US, what did she want to be when she grew up?
If I'm being totally transparent, I don't know if she knew. And if I think about my young childhood, I really honestly don't remember a lot because I just can't imagine being 7, 8 years old coming in, like I said, leaving a tribe, leaving a whole village of friends and family to come only know two people, don't know the language, don't know how to communicate. So that young version of me, I want to say she was very courageous to be able to move about the world and to survive. And I would like to think that, for her, it was just trying to survive and learn the language, learn the culture. And it was just that and nobody knew my language. It's not like people could translate for me or anything. This was even at a time when, there was no English as a second language classes. So there was none of that. I mean, I had to kind of learn, like I was thrown into a classroom and I was learn how to do commas and periods and cross your T's. So there was no, hey, let's work with her from this way. So I think that 8-year-old was very resilient, but I'm not really sure if she knew what she wanted to do because it was at a phase where it was more out of survival and understanding versus creating. So I think for me, the creating came later. And then it still continues to come, right? Like, so I'm still creating what's next for me. I'm 29 and a half. So,
Sure.
I still got a long ways to go.
Yeah. Wow. I think, Rubina, to your point, when you came to the US, there wasn't, English as a second language. There wasn't, all of the different things and resources that children and students have today. So in my mind, it sounds like 7-year-old Rubina was very brave in what she was doing and embarking on these new adventures. So, Rubina, how did you decide to become an educator?
Yeah, I have no idea. I say that in gist, but it's kind of when I talk about my career, I was in, when I went to college, I have 3 degrees. So, but when I went in undergraduate, I was an industrial psychology undergraduate degree. And I met one of my mentors, one of my first mentors, official mentors, Dr. Crane. He was a professor in the business department. And actually I was taking a intro to business class or, something like some class like that, very intro. And I was telling the gentleman, I remember him, Dr. Bridges, about my interest. And he's like, "Oh, you got to talk to Don. You got to talk to Don Crane. Yeah, you need to talk to him. You would be really great at human resources." And I was like, "Wow, okay." So here I was. I met Dr. Crane, and he had written books on human resources. He was an arbitrator, like just loved all of that stuff. He was just an advocate, even to this day. Actually, we still keep in touch. Even to this day, I don't think he's working I don't think he's working anymore. But I know like if he could, he would, and he probably still is. But Dr. Crane took me under his wing. He introduced me to human resources, and, like introduced me to the professional association. I got involved in that. I got to meet professionals. I got to learn. So I got indoctrinated into human resources really early at a young age, actually. And I got my job even before I even graduated in human resources, which back then it was kind of, unheard of because it was kind of hard to get into that field and it was just emerging. But so I went into corporate America with the thought of, oh, I am going to break that glass ceiling. I'm going to, break all these stereotypes that are happening. Because right around that time, it was the whole glass ceiling, women, all that coming out. And I was that advocate. So I think if I think about the 7-year-old, right, and who she had to become to be an advocate, not only for herself, right, to to gain status somewhere. I think that avocation, that creating equity in the world, started young for me. And so going into corporate America, I think I had a chip on my shoulder saying, I'm going to create this opportunity for equity. And I felt like the profession of human resources, training people was one of those opportunities. So if you think about, like you asked me, how did I get into education? If you think about it, going into human resources, going into training was part of, like, I was an educator, even at that time. And then I worked for a nonprofit that was connected with education. It was economic education. And then I actually created my own opportunities. Like I wanted to explore how would I like being a professor, teaching, and I really enjoyed it. And the impact, the purpose that I could make. And I loved my students. I love my students and the fire and the desire that they have to be successful and to be leaders out in the world. So, I had that opportunity to actually, make that impact. And I have been making that impact. And I continue to, to be blessed to be able to make that. So that's how I got into kind of, education. And if you think about it, that line of equity, that line of let's advocate and create opportunities for others, it's been all the way through my career. And now I just do it through education and or through my business.
Wow. Wow. I do see that running kind of like as a theme throughout your career. You have such a rich background, Rubina. And I love how you described, just marrying HR, human resources with academia. So we know that you are a professor and you also have your own business, but tell us, what was a significant accomplishment in your career before you started Malik Global Solutions?
Yeah, I think for me, having discovered one of the things was like having discovered what I was passionate about, and I knew that passion was to impact, make a difference, utilize my industrial psychology degree with, like really my love for business as well. So, I spent a lot of time in the business school as well. And at that time, undergraduate, and obviously I have an MBA as well, and my PhD. By the way, my PhD stands for Professional Hell Raising Diva. Kind of goes with the theme of who
Uh-huh.
I am. You pick it
Mm-hmm.
up. I just needed as my friends say, I just needed a certificate to
Uh-huh.
prove to the world that I was that.
Got it.
When, as pivotal points for me were one, when I went into corporate America, knowing that what I wanted to do. And then the second pivotal moment for me was actually going into the classroom, making an impact. I teach so I teach at Morehouse College, which is a historic HBCU, historic Black college and university. So I teach, young Black men, and that to have the honor and the privilege to be able to utilize my experience to support the growth of these young, our future leaders, really is that other pivotal moment for me of my career, which, like I said earlier, like I'm so blessed and honored to be that and to be able to do that and make that impact. So those are two moments. And I will say I'm going to cheat a little bit and give you the third,
Go for it.
because it just came to me, and that was when I got my PhD and I was on stage, and you get hooded. So basically, you'll notice all PhDs have this little hood in the back,
Hmm.
when they're wearing their gala,
Mhm.
their outfit. And there's 2 feet. They tell you to stand on those 2 feet, and then your advisor comes and from behind and he or she hoods you. I had a
Mhm.
she, Dr. Birma, and Dr. Birma, when she hooded me, it was almost like there was just like this energy that just came through, that just solidified, that just grounded me in all the work that I had done and the level of commitment that I had to make an impact, through a doctorate, through what I do, for a living. And yeah, that will always be a very special moment for me as well.
Mm, I'm sure. I'm sure. So, what was the defining moment that made you want to start a business, Rubina?
Well, my family, we're all like serial entrepreneurs, right? So
Hmm.
my dad, although he worked, rest his soul, although he had a corporate job, he also had a side, real estate, real estate business. And then my brother has his own business. I have 2 brothers. One of my brothers has his own business, consulting software consulting business. And then my other brother's an attorney. He has his own law firm. And so, serial entrepreneurship has always been around. We're always got something on the side that we're trying to do, or, just have an interest in. So for me, having my own business is kind of extends out to my purpose and my mission. So here I am making an impact and creating leaders. And if you think about it, I'm kind of doing the same thing, but at a bigger level, at a corporate level. So, for me, building leaders in a corporate environment, it trickles out to impact so many. So I want you to visualize this. You have one manager. Let's say he gets coaching, mentoring, training, sponsored, or whatever. That one manager is responsible for 6 other people, let's say. So as he or she develops, becomes the empowered leader they are, who else are they going to empower? There's 6 employees, subordinates, if not more. And then who are they going to empower? The people underneath them. Let's not forget their families.
Hmm.
So for me to be able to go in, work with individuals and organizations, work with organizations to create programs to impact their leaders, for me, it's just a wider purpose to make an impact for the greater good. And that's that's why I do what I do. That's why I have my business, and that's why I started my business, was for the grander impact that I could make. So
Yeah. That's very powerful, Rabina. And I love how you explain that ripple effect, right? Of how working with that one manager in some way affects the 6 other people and their families and the other people in the organization that they come into contact with. We know that you are a mentoring expert, and I want to just start with the basics, just in case someone listening is unaware. What is a mentor?
yeah. So a mentor is someone that supports you and guides you to help to navigate your career. Now, usually it's defined as someone older or at a higher level than you to help you to navigate and support you to navigate your and guide you through your career. So that's the formal definition, you could say. And I'm just going to push against that as well. I don't believe that they have to be in a higher position than you anymore. I believe that they could be, the same level. They could be below or above, or and at the same level as you are, to support you. I mean, evidence shows now, and we have gray heads, as they say, coming down to talk to millennials and getting mentored by millennials, and vice versa. So mentoring really is someone. I'd like to define it as someone, not someone that's in a higher position than you, that supports you, helps you to guide you and navigate your career.
Yeah, I love that definition, Rabina. And you know that we do a lot of multi-generational work. And yes, reverse mentoring is the way I've heard a lot of people put it. But yes, having someone who might technically be of a younger generation, mentoring someone in an older generation, and how that exchange works. So thank you for sharing that with us. How long does the typical mentorship last?
Well, that's a good question. Dr. Crane and I talked about my mentor, Dr. Crane and we met when I was in college. He's still my mentor. I still call him. And so officially, right, like, let's say in a mentoring program. So let me get nerdy. Okay. Can I get nerdy? Can I get academic and nerdy?
Get
Right.
academic and nerdy with us,
Okay.
please.
So, like, if you think about behavioral modification, you would want to have that relationship for 6 months or more, no
Mhm.
longer than, longer than 6 months. Ideally, 12 months would be great, right? So,
Mhm.
as you're meeting with your mentor, you're learning, you're modifying, etc. So, there's that, and then you have, for me, mentors, can last a lifetime.
The Career 101 podcast is brought to you by Fly High Coaching, where we help our clients soar to their full potential. More and more professionals and executives are setting out to achieve their career goals. But without the right support, it can be difficult, if not impossible. Whether you need career coaching, interview coaching, or a professional resume, we're here to help. Check us out on our website, fly-highcoaching.com.
They do last a lifetime. You always have that connection. My mentees from, they were undergraduate. I'm now a grand mentor. My mentees have children now, and I'm
Mhm.
their, like, I'm a grand mentor, right?
I love that.
Yeah. So, they're still in touch. We still call. I still help navigate. I still help guide. Like once a year, like, I need your SMART goals. I want to know what's happening this year. I want them on paper. That's still happening, right? Like, now I understand. Like, you might be 57 and your parents still treat you like you're 7, right? And I understand now, right, as a mentor to all of these young mentees, that to me they're still that 19, 20, right. So although they're in their 30s now, and they're, I'm so proud to say of some of the positions that they're in. I'm proud of them. And I would like to acknowledge that I have helped guide that, right? Like making sure they had a mentor, a sponsor, making sure that they're getting what they need to develop themselves, and not just for me, but from the organization. So the formal answer to your question, how long, I would say 6 months to 12 months, no shorter than that. And then the informal definition would be, it's a lifetime relationship. Hopefully, you've built that relationship with that mentor, that it does last a lifetime. And it's such a privilege and an honor to see someone advance in their career over the years. So
Absolutely. Well, the grand mentor has spoken on that.
that's right.
Yes. So, what are some benefits to having a mentor? I think you've started to kind of touch on this.
There's so many benefits. Portia, what can I say? Where do I start? Like, let me start on an organization level, okay? In an organization level, having a mentoring program, a good structured mentoring program supports an organization to have more engagement, retention. You've got employees that their morale is high because they're like, oh, my organization believes in me enough to get me a mentor, or I had the opportunity to have a mentor. And then you get guidance, you get to exchange knowledge. That knowledge transfer, like, you can't buy that, right? So, like, being able to give knowledge and pass knowledge on. So there's so much of that for the organization. Of course, where does that all hit? The bottom line: profit, right? Profit for the organization. You want to have people around. How much it costs to hire someone new? It's their salary times half, right? Their
Mhm.
salary plus half of their salary plus half their salary. So wouldn't it behoove organizations to have programs of mentoring, and not only to transfer knowledge, and not only to help guide and support and help individuals navigate their careers in that organization, but to have retention, to have engagement, to have a high morale? Of course, that's for the company. For the individual, there's some benefits as well. I mean, you have the experience of someone who's had been there, done that, got the t-shirts, and they say,
Hmm.
look, you know what? Like when you're running this marathon, don't go down this road. Make sure you get these shoes. Make sure like you got your water, etc. You know, being a marathon runner, like it was nice to have a mentor tell you things like, don't do this, don't do that. But to have someone to help guide you to navigate, some pitfalls that you might get, or to just run something by, right? That is valuable. That's invaluable. You can't get that from a book. You get that from an experience. So for individuals, there's empowerment, there's connection. You get to build a network as well. Although a mentor is not a sponsor, but you definitely have a network. I mean, any of my mentors, my mentees says, Dr. Malik, I need X, Y, and Z. Okay, hold on. Go through my Rolodex, call this person, do this, do that. I open up my Rolodex for them because they are my mentees. I trust them to pass them along to even my own mentors. By the
Hmm.
way, I have mentors too, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. You said a lot of great things there. Also, you touched on career sponsorship, which we've also talked about already. I think that we're going to have you back again, Rubina, to talk about career sponsorship. But you're right. There are so many things that you can get in working with a mentor and benefits. Another reason, honestly, Rubina, for me starting this podcast was I started having more people coming to me wanting me to mentor them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's people that want mentorship around their business, some people it's their career, and I mean just different ages and different stages of life. And so this podcast is a way for me to kind of give back, in a small way as well. A question I think that a lot of people ask me, and I want to throw this to you: how is mentoring different than coaching?
Yeah. So, great question. So when you're involved in a coaching relationship, that relationship is to help develop maybe a skill set, is to maybe help, maybe it's communication. You need to work on that. So you spend those sessions with your coach working through, like, hey, communication, working through some other things that support that developmental part of a skill. Mentoring, yes, I might be giving you some guidance, like, hey, Portia, you thought about reading this book, it's a really great book, it's on communication, I read it, or maybe take this course. I might guide you, I might navigate you towards something, but I may not have the skills and the tools to help develop you in that skill. So, it's very much a developmental relationship when it comes to coaching, and it really much is a more of a guidance relationship when it comes to mentoring.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that you broke that down wonderfully, Rubina. And to your point, and I think this piggybacks on what you were saying, sometimes with people, I explain that coaching can be a bit more structured, to your point about a set, clear developmental goal or skill set someone has that they want to work on. Mentoring, a lot of times, can be more direct advice, and then it can be broader, right? Instead of, kind of more targeted goals that someone has in coaching. So thank you.
Yeah,
What advice would you give to someone on how to find a mentor?
right. Which is a great question. People are always, looking to find that. And so I think one of the things we have to understand is that a mentoring relationship is a relationship. So, you have to cultivate it, you have to nurture it. It has to, you got to build it with trust. And my biggest suggestions would be, you meet someone. So there's several ways. Let me get technical again. So there's formal and informal relationships when it comes to mentoring. A formal is you work at an organization, they have a mentoring program. They're like, okay, Rubina, you look like a good person for Portia. Okay, you guys mentor, right? Like however they use the connection, they match you. Okay. So
Mhm.
that's your formal relationship. Then there's the informal, where it's like, you and I have met, and I meet you somewhere, and I really like you, and I'm like, wow, like I really like Portia. I think I could learn a lot from her, and I might stay in touch with you, and I might help nurture that, develop that relationship, and I might even ask you, like, do you mind being a mentor? Or I might just can take you on as a mentor, mentee, and then one day you just realize, oh, like I'm her mentor, I'm her mentee, or I'm her mentor, yeah. And so those are the two ways. So one is more organic, one is more structured. And the biggest thing I can say is for people to understand is when they're building the relationship, don't just assume people want to be your mentor. One, so you want to ask, you want to be respectful. And secondly, you want to make sure if you do that you're following up, that you're doing some of the work that they're doing. So when students come up to me as well, like they're like, oh, Dr. Malik, I want you to mentor me. I'm like, sure. Then you know what? I'll put it in their hands. I'm like, set up a time to come meet with me. Step number one, do they take the time to do that? No. Next.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the next person comes and then they're like, yeah, we're going to do this. I want to do this. I'm like, okay, well, here's what I need you to do. I want you to come with your goals. What do you want? What do you want out of the mentoring relationship, et cetera? Then they come and then they bring that, So you got to nurture that relationship. And or you may not actually, you may just build it organically. I have a mentor. I met him. I heard him speak at an event that I think I was speaking at as well, or I was hosting. I can't remember. And I was in admiration of him. He was Pakistani, very high executive, and I was like, so just kept in touch with email, and I would just like, hey, I'd love to have a coffee chat with you. And it was right before COVID, actually, so it was kind of funny. So we would just get on, WebEx. His company has WebEx, and we would have a coffee chat for 30 minutes. And then but he would give me this guidance every time, and I would take it. I would adhere to it. I would think about it, contemplate it. I would send him an email, and like I just went on holiday, and one of the places that I went is some place that he recommended. So, the other thing about mentoring is that, your mentors may have experiences that they want to make sure that you have that experience and explore the world, not just your little box. So it was like, next time you go to Turkey, you want to go to Cappadocia. I know I'm going to probably say the name wrong because I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, got a chance to go there, just totally, whole different experience of life. And so that was just a very informal relationship that got built over time. I don't even know if he knows that he's my mentor, but he sure is to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? But, every quarter I set up a call, talk to him. And that's the other thing I would do is when people have mentors is, be consistent. Put it in your calendar. Follow up with them, whether they follow up with you or not. It doesn't matter. You follow up and say, hey, how's it going? Just wanted to give you an update. I'd love to set up a time, 30 minutes. If you put in the initiative, people are going to give you that initiative back. So I kind of veered off, but so there's the formal and the informal ways to find a mentor. And then again, the biggest thing is you got to nurture it and you got to contribute back to that person as well. Like for me, my mentor, he's one of my mentors. Like, he's extraordinary. He's an extraordinary mentor, but he's also an extraordinary manager. During this whole COVID time, there was an opportunity to nominate someone for an award. Guess what? I nominated him. I don't work for him, but he's my mentor. I said that. I mentioned that. But those are the kind of things too. You got to give back to that person too. You got to build that relationship. It's a two-way street. So,
Yeah.
Like my mentee, I'm proud to say my mentee, when my grand mentee was born, he FaceTimed me.
Wow.
He FaceTimed me. Like, how do you think that made me feel?
Yeah, that just shows the the strength of the relationship that you have with your mentees. And, for everyone listening, one of the last few times I actually saw Rubina in person, I was out at a restaurant in the Atlanta area, and Rubina was there across the room. I went over to say hello, and she was having dinner with one of her mentees. So that's how dedicated Rubina is to mentorship and really giving back. Tell us more about your business, Malik Global Solutions, Rubina.
Yeah. Well, Malik Global Solutions, we're a global organization that is committed to working with organizations around their human capital, helping them to facilitate workshops, helping create programs, mentoring, sponsorship, to anything that's going to support the growth and the productivity of their human capital. And that, of course, what does that do? It helps with their bottom line. So we facilitate workshops, we do one-on-one coaching, we do strategic advising, we help create programs. So really anything in the realm of learning and development, professional development, anything around that area. So I work with ERGs, I work with one-on-one, I might do, a workshop. We just did a workshop on imposter syndrome last week. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing, I'm certified in several assessments. So like tomorrow I'm actually doing a debrief on one of the assessments that I work on. So, anything that's going to help develop and support individual development to those emerging, my passion really is those emerging leaders to go to that next level, as well as obviously women, because remember, I'm still trying to break that glass ceiling.
Yeah.
So, and especially women and diverse communities, to help them to really have the skill sets to be put into the pipeline of leadership, right? So I believe being developed and having the opportunity to get professional support and learning and development supports to create that equity that we started talking about, me as a young girl, that supports that equity. So, as I go up to a leadership position, I have just as much success as my counterpart because we've been trained. We both have the same skills. So I think organizations really need to spend time in developing, upskilling, their employees. Again, profit at the bottom line, retention, engagement, morale. Who wouldn't want that? That's a great cocktail right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be providing a link to your website and your other social channels in our show notes so that people can find you online. Also, I recommend that everyone go follow Rubina on LinkedIn. She does this post on Mondays called Malik Monday Mentoring. She's got great tips and information there. But what is the best way for someone to get in touch with you, Rubina?
Great. Well, yeah, please definitely, LinkedIn, Rubina F. Malik. And, my website is www.rubinafmalik.com. And the other is, you can email me. You can email me at rubina@rubinafmalik.com. And I'm not, like I said, LinkedIn is a great way to, connect with me. I think usually it's the most safest. Mm-hmm. Sometimes technology has weird things to my website sometimes, mm-hmm. But, please, feel free to reach out, follow or connect. Let me know that you came from this show. So, I can let Portia know, hey, we made that impact.
Yeah.
But please come. And I'm writing a book too. I'm going to be working on a book around mentoring, Portia. So that's new. I'll put it out into the world. Well, I have to do it.
Yes, we got an exclusive here on the Career 101 podcast.
That's right. That's right.
So, Rubina, how do you think executives or professionals can get a positive edge in their career?
Yeah. So, great question. So here's my advice for individuals to get that positive edge. And one is invest in yourself. If your company's not investing in you, if they're not helping you to get a coach, you know what? Go get a coach yourself. Go invest in you and develop your skill sets. You do your reskilling. You do your upskilling. You do that. Invest in yourself. Secondly, not because I love mentoring, get a mentor. Get somebody to support you that's been there, done that, can help you navigate. And then thirdly, find a sponsor in your organization, right? Making sure that people see who you are, do good work, create opportunities for yourself to be noticed by doing good work, doing good and ethical work. So I think investment in yourself. And by the way, that investment in yourself is also asking your organization as well. If you can, if they don't, then you go invest in yourself as well. But make sure you're asking as well. Get a mentor, get a sponsor, and always looking to see how can I go to that next level as an individual, as a professional, and not stay that status quo, because one never stops learning. By the way, although he was never officially my mentor, but one of our former presidents of my university, Georgia State undergraduate university, he was I looked up to him, and I'll leave it at this, which is he's like, you're a young lady. He was retired and he was going to the library, and I'm like, sir, like, what are you doing? Like, you're retired. Why are you? He's like, young lady, you never stop learning. The day you stop learning is the day you die.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very powerful, very powerful. Just great nuggets of wisdom, tips and insights. And I hope everyone was listening to Rubina, because she said a lot that we could use in our own careers, right? To be confident and also to be successful. We really appreciate having you with us today, Rubina.
No, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you so much, Portia. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you again for listening to this episode of the Career 101 podcast. I hope you have at least one key takeaway that you can use in your own career. Until next time, here's to your success.